Hi, I am speaking to you from Tepoztlán, Mexico, and I want to talk to you about this fabulous book, The Light of the World by Elizabeth Alexander. I have read it already twice. I brought it with me to Mexico because, well, and I'm traveling with very few books because I just wanted to have it by my bedside. And every morning I've been climbing up to my rooftop early in the morning as the sun is rising and reading a few pages of this, and it's just been setting the tone for my days. So I would love to share just the majesty of this book. The story, the simple story, is that Elizabeth Alexander, who is a very accomplished poet, and the language sings through the book. No, she just has this absolutely exquisite carpentry of language that she employs for all of these very simple, spare, elegant images that appear throughout the whole book. So that the background is that, no, that she's employing a poet's craft to her story, which is that her husband, 𝘞𝘰𝘳, who was an artist, they had this big 50th birthday celebration for him, and all the friends came, and it was this colorful celebratory event. And then several days later, he dropped dead just on his treadmill. They had no idea that he had, I think, all sorts of blocked arteries. No, they had no idea. He was someone who was, he ate the flax seeds and yogurt and whatever else you're supposed to eat, and exercised and was fit and so on. But he died very suddenly, and their two young sons were, I think, preteen. So that's the base story. That's what I call the ground story, and then the reason that I read it and reread it is not to just read the story, but it's what the story delivers. It's what she, as an artist, poet, writer, memoirist, delivers through the story, which is this just tremendous grace and love. It is this soaring love story. It just pulses with love. And she has such an eye, such a careful eye, and he was an artist, and so they together, I think, saw the world in just a very unique and insightful way. They and they valued such beautiful small things. Food was very central to them. So in fact, there are recipes in the book that he used to cook. Every time I put the book down, I notice my world. I'm grateful for every small item of beauty, every breath, every person in my life whom I love. I'm even getting choked up talking about it. It's just the most moving book. And what it moves into us and through us in such a way that we are changed by reading it, I think. I could read you, you can see that it's full, can you see this? That it's full of, I've just marked it up with all these little sticky notes because I turn to them sometimes just to remember. The other day I was sitting and I had brought my tea up with me, and I read there are these very short chapters, these little vignettes of their life, and they're interspersed. That sometimes we have the event itself, or we go back and forth in time. So for anyone who has a story like that skips around in time, this is a beautiful example of someone who is able to move us through time and space in such a way that we never get lost. We know exactly where we are in relation to everything. And also, I think a lot of people do enjoy writing in very small scenes, small vignettes, and this is an example of someone who's just stringing all this together just seamlessly. But I can read you a little excerpt. There were so many that I was trying to choose. I mean, this is just a beautiful one that the other that illustrates something that I just love too is just this spareness of language. There's no melodrama in the book. She leaves. It's a beautiful example of someone who paints. I always talk about this with people who are trying to convey emotion. There's a moment that is, they want to have great impact for the reader, and my impulse is always, well, then pull back, because if we try to tell people how to feel, they won't feel anything. They'll just hear what you think they should feel. No? And so often when we leave out our judgment, our reaction, our emotion as the writer, we then make space for the reader to respond, for the reader to feel what it is that the writer is conjuring. And this is this is a small example of this. It begins on a beautiful April morning when a man wakes exhausted and returns to sleep in his beloved 13-year-old son's trundle bed, declaring, "This is the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in." Or it begins when the wife says goodbye to the man a few hours later, walking in front of his car, switching her hips a bit, a blown kiss as she heads to her office, and he continues on to his painting studio. Or the story begins as he packs a tote bag with the usual slim thermos of strong coffee made in an Italian stovetop mocha pot, a larger thermos of cold water, 2 tangerines, a packet of Nat Sherman MCD cigarettes, and a plastic sack of raw almonds. The tote is astral blue and printed with Giotto angels. Off to his studio for a day of painting, then home, as if nothing extraordinary has happened, when in fact he's been envisioning worlds, hanging the Giotto bag on a hook in the mudroom and changing out of his paint-splattered jeans into gym shorts and a t-shirt for yoga in the family room or a run on the treadmill in the basement. Soon the 2 children will walk down Edge Hill Road from the bus stop like burros under their knapsacks, and his wife will prepare dinner while listening to Thelonious Monk's evocative open intervals and sipping from a glass of white wine that he's opened and poured for her. "My frosty white?" she'd asked a few times a week, and he'd chuckle and say, "Right away, my love, chop chop." They enjoyed playing and acting out boy-girl courtliness. The 13-year-old does his homework and the 12-year-old practices his drumming. The man's home life is the unchanging, beautiful same, so anything could occur in the painting studio each day. I am the wife. I am the wife of 15 years. I am the plumpish wife, the pretty wife, the loving wife, the smart wife, the American wife. I am eternally his wife. Perhaps the story begins with the 3 dozen lottery tickets he bought 2 days before he died, which I discovered weeks later when they fluttered out of the pages of one of the many books he was reading. Or it begins with his surprise 50th birthday party 4 days before he died, and the spoken tributes from his loved ones, and strawberries and pancakes and music the next morning. Or it began when I met him, 16 years before. That was always a good story, an actual coup de foudre, a bolt of lightning, love at first sight. I felt a visceral torque, I would tell people, a literal churn of my organs, not butterflies, not arousal, rather a not unpleasant rotation of my innards as never before. Lightning struck and did not curdle the cream, but instead turned it into sweet silken butter. Lightning turned sand into glass. The story began in the winter of 1961, when 2 quietly mighty women were each pregnant, one in Asmara, Eritrea, and the other in Harlem, USA. One with her 6th child, one with her 1st. The East African sun would arrive on March 21st, 1962, the most hallowed day of the zodiac. It is the beginning and the end of the astrological calendar, and so it is said that children born on March 21st are ancient souls who possess the wonder and innocence of newborns. The American child, a girl, would come on May 30th into the chatter and buzz of Gemini in Gotham. Okay, and so I'll leave you to it. The Light of the World by Elizabeth Alexander. I hope you love it as much as I do. Thanks.